A group of entitled jerks demand that they get served their food faster than anybody else, claiming that they had been waiting for over 45 minutes and that if they didn't get their food right away, they would be walking out. And after watching this guy chew out this waitress over and over again, I decided to stand up and put this guy in his place. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so Saturday evening, just before 6 p.m., my wife, myself, and our daughter go to dinner at a local sports bar. As you can imagine, on a Saturday night at this time, it is fairly busy, especially considering it was the Kentucky Derby night. We get seated right away and start perusing the menu. I get up to a high chair, and on my way back to the table, a group of 3 men come in and get seated catty-corner to our table. And this is about 5 to 10 minutes after we had just been seated. The waitress comes to our table first, as we were there first, and these entitled jerks get upset that she didn't see them first. They then snap at her. They force a drink order on her, and then they say, "Make it snappy, we're in a hurry." There was no regards for being polite, just this hurry up and service attitude that honestly was so obnoxious. We get our drinks and put in our orders, and then they get their drinks and they put in their order. Maybe 10 minutes go by, and one of the jerks at that table is visibly seething. He calls over the waitress and starts going in on her. He starts shouting, "Where's our food?" Well, she kindly explains that they have the order in, and the kitchen is working on it right now. And mind you, it's only been 10 minutes on a Saturday night, and the Kentucky Derby is going off in about 40 minutes. Another 5 minutes or so go by, and again, the waitress is called over, she's being berated, and they're now throwing around the line that they have somewhere they need to be. And it's right then that the exaggerations start to flow in. "We've been waiting for over half an hour for our food," as well as all this other garbage coming out of their mouth. At this point, I openly stare at them. I catch one of them in the eye, and I just give him the disappointed dad head shake, and I don't say anything. It's only been about 15 or 20 minutes that they've been waiting since ordering, and at this point, my table's food comes out and my family starts eating. As soon as the food hit our table, the one angry jerk is visibly livid. He calls over the waitress and starts going in on her again. He starts screaming, "We've been waiting for over 45 minutes," which is just a huge exaggeration. He then says, "If the kitchen doesn't have our food plated and out immediately, we are leaving. This is ridiculous. This has been the worst service ever." Now, the waitress does her best to calm them and goes to check on the food. But these jerks don't even give her a chance to come back, as they just get up and start to leave. Now, I had had a pint or two by this point, so I catch the same guy's eye and I loudly say to him, "Looks like big guy could probably skip a meal anyways." Now, the face he gave me honestly made me believe that he couldn't believe that I just said that. And he starts trying to tell me about how long they've waited and how terrible the service is. But I held my hand up and I just cut him off. I said to him, "Buddy, you guys got here 10 minutes after my family did. You've not been waiting 45 minutes. I don't care if you're in a hurry. That's your problem, not the restaurant's. You chose to come here full and well knowing that you had somewhere to be. And now you're mad that a busy sports bar is taking more than 20 minutes with your food? And this is the same generation that calls my generation lazy and entitled? That was the most entitled display of behavior I've ever seen." Well, when I said that, this guy was flabbergasted. He starts saying something about how, "Well, we didn't ask for your input." And I responded by saying, "You are adults in public who literally just threw a very public temper tantrum. You're subject to the judgment and criticism of your peers when you are in public. That's how public works, buddy." He then started to just self-destruct into a litany of huffing noises of disgust. He then turned to the waitress and said, "I want to speak to a manager." But I responded by saying, "I don't work here, you idiot. I'm a paying customer just like you should have been. What's a manager gonna do?" He then turned on his heels and started walking out with his buddies, so I started to boo them as they walked out the door, and no less than 3 other tables joined in, shooing them out the door along with me. Eventually, the manager and the waitress both came by our table and thanked me, and told me that I said exactly what they were thinking. And even though my wife was mortified that I did that, I will happily do that again if I ever see that type of behavior in public. That is honestly so cool that you actually stood up to those guys, because seriously, if I was sitting near that, I would be so annoyed. I can't stand when people go into a restaurant and they're like, "Oh, we've been waiting here for 45 minutes. But it's like, dude, we got here before you and we've been only waiting for what, 10 minutes? Like seriously, just get a grip and be patient for once in your life. So good for you for saying exactly what everybody was thinking. And hopefully those entitled jerks learn their lesson and they don't ever act like that in public ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own own stories. Am I the jerk for walking away from my parents after they told me they're going to adopt my brother's biological sibling? Because after years of feeling neglected by my parents, as well as having my needs put on the back burner, I now feel myself being left behind in my own family. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents became foster parents after I was born, and they actually adopted 3 kids from foster care before they decided to stop fostering. At the time, my parents said they wanted to focus more on their own kids, but really, I think they were struggling with 4 of us, and I think near the end, fostering became more for the money than anything else. As the oldest and their biological kid, just so they didn't worry if I felt like I belonged or not, I had to make more sacrifices than my siblings. Stuff for me just came last. I got less than my siblings too, and gifts to me were always cheaper, so that they could splurge a little for my siblings. So for Christmas, I'd maybe get some clothes and some books, even though I don't really read, and my siblings would get toys and tablets and stuff that they loved. And even for my birthday, my cake would be super small, and my gifts would basically be just essential things that I might need. When I was 12 years old, my grandparents bought me a laptop for my birthday, and my parents pressured me into giving it up just so it could be used as a family computer instead of a personal one just for me. I said no the first time, but my parents weren't going to accept it. I don't get to go out with my friends often because my parents don't want to use gas driving me, and they don't want to give me money to go eat or just to see a movie or anything. They also send me to birthdays without a gift for my friends, so I've asked my grandparents for money sometimes to buy a gift for my friends. But my parents never send my siblings without gifts for their friends. My parents wanted me to get a job, but they only wanted me to do that so that I could put money into the household. Since I get the short end of the stick, I don't want to add money to make everyone else's lives easier but not mine, and I don't believe that it would make my life any easier. In October, my grade will have the chance to go on the school's interactional trip. We were told about it in February so we can save and get numbers. I pleaded with my parents to find a way to send me. I got my grandparents to help me talk them through it, and they agreed, so they started saving. Then, a week ago, my parents announced that my younger brother's birth mom is pregnant again, and she approached them to do a private adoption so her kids could all be raised together, with my parents agreeing to do this. So they sat us down and told us, and mentioned that they had already spent the money saved for the trip. They said things will change for a couple of years, but we will have a new member of the family. Now, when I heard this, I was so pissed off and hurt that I just walked out. I walked away from my parents and ignored them when they called me back. They were so angry about it, and when my grandparents found out, they offered to pay for the trip for me. But my parents said they would stop them paying directly, and if they give the money to me or to them, they will make sure that it goes on more important things. My parents are now calling me childish and petty for walking away like I did. So right now, I need to know if I'm the jerk in this situation, because I am still so upset and I now just don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. I'm so sorry that your parents are acting this way, because I think you got it right earlier. It seems like they're only in it for being a foster parent because they get money out of it, not because they actually care about the kids they're watching. And also, why should you have to sacrifice all this stuff just so your younger siblings can have a better life than you? It really seems like your needs are completely put on the back burner, and that is honestly just not fair. Now, when it comes to that trip, I think there might be solutions available with the school. Like maybe if you talk to like one of the school counselors or something like that, they might be able to help you out and be like, okay, we can pay for this trip for you. And trust me, you would not be the first person to make that kind of request. So hopefully this all works out for you in some kind of way, because honestly, the way your parents are acting is completely inappropriate. My wife of 8 years cheated on me with someone who isn't even real, as she fell for a TikTok scam thinking that a musician was trying to hook up with her. And now that I found out, I am completely heartbroken. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I noticed a couple weeks ago that my wife was acting distant and very uninterested in me. I asked her if she was mad at me, to which she said, no, I've just been in a funk. Now, I just felt that something was off. So I waited until she fell asleep, and then I went through her phone, which is something I have never done since we were together, and we've been together for over 10 years. Well, upon opening her phone, I found a text thread with a guy, and they were calling each other babe and baby and stuff along those lines, along with some extremely explicit text messages and pictures. Well, when I saw that, I woke her up and I pretty much told told her that we were done. I left to cool off, and I came back, and her and I talked more, to which she said he was a musician, and he randomly added her on TikTok, and they started talking innocently, but it then led to something more. She told me she hadn't felt appreciated or wanted in a while, and it just sort of happened, but she didn't even know what she wanted. I basically told her that if she wanted to run off with some musician, then do whatever you want, but you are definitely going to be the one to explain it to our kids. And for reference, we have two very young girls. She went to bed and I just stayed up all night, just in complete disbelief, trying to work out my feelings. In the morning, her personality changed, and she was very apologetic and asked if we could talk later that day. I said sure for the sake of our kids, and I pretty much cried all day, something I rarely do, but I wanted to try and work through it because I don't want my kids to grow up with only me in their lives 50% of the time. I went through the messages as I took pictures of them in case I needed them for divorce court, and I noticed that all the pictures that were sent to her from this guy were from this person's social media, which really seemed odd. As we talked later that day, I asked her more details of them messaging on TikTok, and she said to me, well, it wasn't his main account, it was another account, and that's why she gave him her number, because he said his other account was going to be banned soon. Well, this immediately confirmed my suspicion that it was a scammer or a catfisher, and simply did a Google search of TikTok musician scam. And when I did that, I found a video from the actual musician stating that he was getting reports that people were making fake profiles pretending to be him to scam women. So yes, my wife of 8 years was emotionally cheating on me with a fake person. And now I honestly don't know what to do. I love her with all of my heart, but I'm honestly broken. We have never had a trust issue in 10 years of being together, and all of that is now gone. I admit that I haven't been the perfect husband. I work in professional sports, so I'd work 14 hours a day and come home and just play video games for an hour before bed just so I can de-stress. And then I would do it all over again 5 days in a row. So I get that I can be responsible for the deterioration of our relationship that may have pushed her to do this, but I just don't know how I'm supposed to trust her and also unsee the text messages, especially the explicit stuff. So honestly, am I overreacting for being hurt and not knowing how to move forward? Because at this point, I feel hurt and very confused. Okay, this honestly is so messed up on so many reasons. For starters, not only in my opinion did your wife try to cheat on you, but your wife is also a complete moron. Like seriously, who would add somebody on TikTok and be like, oh yeah, now's my chance to cheat? Like that place is riddled with scams exactly like that, and you have to be a complete idiot to send messages like that to somebody you don't even know. Like how is that not more obvious to your wife? For reference, she is 33 years old. Was she seriously expecting to run away with this musician and start a new life? Like her attempt at cheating on you in the first place, in my opinion, would really upset me. But the fact that it wasn't even real in the first place, and that she did this all for nothing, is honestly so devastating. Like that's really heartbreaking, because what if it was real? Would she really try to run off and be with this musician guy? Like that is just so unbelievably toxic. So no, I don't think you're overreacting at all, and I don't think you working a lot and playing video games would ever lead anybody to make this kind of decision. Like there are so many steps she should have taken if she really felt that this relationship was falling apart. It's like she went from feeling left out of this marriage to suddenly being like, okay, time to cheat, and that in my opinion is just completely unfair for you. So hopefully for the sake of your two daughters, this all works out, because what she tried to do is completely unacceptable. Today I messed up by being a bad girlfriend and only thinking about the money that we're making in our house after my boyfriend lost his job, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my boyfriend for almost a year now, and we've been living together for 3 months. I work a salon and make just under $30,000, whereas he makes almost $150,000 at his job. Unsurprisingly, since we've been living together, he has covered all of our living expenses, which is a blessing. 3 days ago, he came home and told me that he lost his job, and I straight up panicked, and the first thing I asked him was how we were going to live. When I said that, he didn't say anything. He looked super defeated and just went in and took a shower, and then afterwards he went for a walk and still didn't say anything to me. I figured he must have been panicking as well and didn't know what to say or how to deal with the situation. Well, ever since then, we have barely talked. I went home last night and my dad could tell that something was wrong, so he asked me and I told him that he lost his job, and his first response was to say, that's alright. He's the smartest kid I know, and I know he'll find a job that pays him double. I then told my dad everything, and he said to me that all my boyfriend really needed was for me to reassure him and hug him. But instead, I only thought about my livelihood and showed no concerns for him or the difficulty of being jobless. I brought it up to him this morning and he said he doesn't care about the job and he can always find another job by next week if he wants to, and has enough savings to maintain our current lifestyle for over a year, but told me he was very demoralized and he was very hurt by what my priorities were in the situation. And right now, I feel like such a jerk and an unsupportive girlfriend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, this is a really rough one. You really did jump to this weird conclusion that your life is pretty much going to be upended instead of trying to comfort your boyfriend and be there for him. Like, I can only imagine how much that must have hurt. He was probably looking for a shoulder to lean on, but instead he got bombarded with his girlfriend basically saying, wait, how are we going to live now? So in that regards, I think you definitely got your priorities mixed up, and I think at least moving forward, you can learn from this and do better in the future, because the way you handled this situation absolutely was very rude. Am I the jerk for saying that I don't care about my half-sister's wedding and that I don't even want to go after she expressed exactly how she feels about me? Because right now, my mom and grandparents are devastated that I don't want to attend, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my half-sister is somewhere in her 20s. I think she's maybe 26 or 27 years old, but I honestly don't know. We're not close enough for me to remember her exact age, even though we lived in the same house when I was younger. And for reference, I'm a 16-year-old female. My half-sister lost her dad when she was 5 or 6 years old, and then mom met my dad and they got married and had me and my 2 younger siblings who are 13 and 12 years old. I was still in elementary school when my half-sister moved out, and she basically had nothing more to do with me. She would visit to see mom, but she didn't really care about the rest of us and would be forced civil if you know what that means. Like, you could see she was forcing herself to say anything to us and to not roll her eyes or look disgusted that we were there. I remember being 9 and hearing her and mom fight outside the house one day, with my half-sister telling my mom to stop acting like my dad was part of her family, that mom married him, but he was just her husband, and she was not going to treat him like he was her parent, and my mom argued that dad had done nothing wrong and didn't deserve outright rejection of even a friendly relationship. My half-sister told my mom the only person in the house she cared about was her, and that my dad could give her a kidney and she would still say that he's just mom's husband, and she wouldn't care if we, meaning my dad, me, and my siblings, all dropped dead because we meant nothing to her, not even a little bit. Well, fast forward and my half-sister is getting married now, and I'm so over all the talk and the fighting about it. The fight came from my half-sister saying that dad wasn't going to have any kind of role in her wedding, and neither were my siblings or me. She said we were a guest that she tolerated and that we were nothing else. Dad had hoped that he would get a dance with her at least, and my mom wanted that for him as well, because she feels like my dad has done a lot for my half-sister over the years and has always done his best to be a good member of her family. Well, my half-sister said we were only invited because of mom, and that's all there is to it. My parents talk about it a lot, and they were talking about whether mom should go alone, but they didn't want to upset us by making us miss our big sister getting married. I jumped in unannounced and said I didn't care about her wedding, and I definitely didn't want to go. My mom looked so devastated to hear that, and my dad spoke to me afterwards and said that I could have handled it a lot better because all 4 of us are mom's kids, and she never wanted our relationship with our half-sister to be so bad. Afterwards, my mom apparently talked to her parents, and they asked me why I had to be so cruel and asked me if I didn't realize that giving up means there is no hope for a better relationship with my half-sister in the future, and how this is completely unfair to my mom. Well, my mom was horrified when they said that to me, but between my grandparents and my dad, I'm honestly left wondering if I did something wrong. So am I the jerk for not wanting to go to my half-sister's wedding? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think it's pretty clear that your half-sister is very toxic, and honestly, it really seems like there's no reason for that toxicity. Like, she just hates you for no good reason, and is essentially ostracizing herself from everybody else in the family besides her mom. Like, she doesn't even care if you're alive or dead. You literally mean nothing to her. I mean, you heard her say that. And like, what does your family expect you to do in a situation like that? Your half-sister expressed all of these opinions in front of her mom, the same person who's giving you a hard time for saying, no, I'm not going to show up. Your mom is blatantly excusing this behavior and basically allowing it to happen at your expense. Why should you have to walk on broken glass that your half-sister literally threw down in front of the entire family? Like, shouldn't your mom at least step in and be like, wait a second, why would you talk to your family like that? Because as far as I'm seeing, this all pretty much falls on the half-sister. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would show up to that wedding. Her behavior and her attitude towards you you and your family is completely unacceptable. And if they really want to harbor some kind of relationship in the future, then they need to take that up with the stepsister and not you. Because it doesn't sound like you've done anything wrong, as it sounds like any animosity comes exactly from your stepsister. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.